Hi everyone, Josh Harrison here. Welcome to this video and welcome to the channel. If you're new here, I have noticed in between this video and the previous video we have another subscriber. So if that's you, a hugely warm welcome. It's great to have your company. Now, just before I dive into the question, how many houses do you have, Josh, and give you some sort of explanation around that, if I can just be extremely selfish for a moment and just draw your attention to this. If you haven't yet subscribed and you like the idea of learning about single buy-to-let investing, what we do and the hints and tips that we offer people, then please subscribe. It's great to have your company. If you like this video at any point and or by the end of it you think the content's really good, then please let us know you liked it. If you've got any comments or questions, then please drop those in. I do read them and I do respond to every single one of them. You might even want to share your own compound annual growth rates if you are feeling brave. And finally, if you have family members or friends who are interested in getting involved in property, single buy-to-lets, refurbishments, refinancing, working with tenants, then this is the channel for you and for them, then please feel free to share it. Now, enough about this, the question in hand. How many houses do you have, Josh? Now, what normally happens is I see someone who I haven't seen for a while or a complete stranger and they find out we're in property and they say, so how's business? And after I've given them a quick update about what we're doing at that point in time, invariably my response is followed up by another question. So how many houses do you have now? And it's a question I completely understand because the human mind likes to quantify things. It's really trying to gauge your level of success, not in a nosy, inquisitive way, just, well, how are you doing? Particularly when talking to us, you know that Beck and I, we buy and hold on to family lets, family buy-to-let properties. So it makes sense then, is if we're buying and holding on to them, we're going to have more now than when we did some point in the past. Absolutely. But I'm suggesting that because you're here on this channel and here watching this video, you probably are a bit more interested than simply how many houses we have. As an investor or a potential investor yourself, there's a better way of measuring success. And it's called the compound annual growth rate. And really, it's the hypothetical interest rate a bank would have given you on your money to work out what your net worth was when you started and what your net worth is now. It's what would a bank have had to pay you in interest to go from where you started with the capital pot that you had to play with at the beginning to where you are now. And it's a really powerful way of measuring success, much better than simply the number of houses. Because let's face it, you could have someone who owns 10 houses, all of which are plagued with problems. They are not profitable, but they've got 10 houses. Compared to someone who has a handful, maybe 5 houses, highly tuned, very refined, great due diligence, perfect research, they're running sweet as a nut. They are much more profitable. But if you're measuring the number of houses, you'd probably say they're not doing as well. But when you're looking at the numbers, they're doing much better. So number of houses is not a very good measure if you're going to be involved in property. A better way is compound annual growth rate. And I'm going to introduce this idea to you. I'm going to lead up to it by sharing with you 3 examples. Person A, person B, and person C. Now, you could say person A is investing in property and so is B and so is C. The numbers don't quite work like that, but it doesn't matter. Let me just work you through. I'm going to start by asking a question. Person A has a return of £1,000. Person B has a return of £5,000 and person C has a return of £100,000. So the question is, who's doing better? Now, you might have responded to that, you might not have done. But it wouldn't be beyond the realm of possibility for someone to have thought that the £1,000 person, person C, is doing the best because after all, they've just made £1,000. However, those who have listened to the question might remember that I said a return of 1,000, a return of 5,000, a return of 100,000. Which means then that implicit in that question is the idea that there was something invested at the beginning for the return to be produced, and you're absolutely right. So what you might say to me is, well, I haven't got enough information, Josh. I can't possibly tell you who's doing better. I don't know what the investment amount was. So let me share that with you now. Here, person A, they got a £1,000 return, but their investment was £3,000. Person B, their return was £5,000, their investment was £20,000, and for person C, their return is £100,000, but the investment was 1 million. And now you might be able to say, well, actually, okay, this is much more helpful because we can understand that 1,000 of the 3,000 is a return of 33% return on investment. This is 25% return on investment, 5,000 divided by 20,000. And of course, this then is only a 10% return on investment. So 33, 25, and 10. So now you might be able to say, well, I can give you an answer. 33% return is the best. But again, if you're seriously interested in property, you need to go a step beyond that too. Because there's a question, you see, there's a detail that hasn't yet been supplied. And it's this: well, what time frame have these returns been generated in? And what we're going to say is that for the first person, person A, this took 5 years. Person B, this took 3 years. And for person C, this took 2 years. So the question now is then, well, if I have different starting amounts for each 3 examples, I have different end returns for each of the examples, and I now have different time frames, how can I possibly calculate and provide an equation that's going to work out which is the best return, factoring those 3 things in? And the answer to that is, thankfully, we have something that's called the compound annual growth rate. Now, what we're going to do, let's have a look here. We have the starting capital. We're going to multiply it by 1. So we have the starting capital included. And then we're going to add to that the compound annual growth rate. And then we're going to multiply it to the power of however many years we held that investment for. I'm going to be given an end capital. Now let me just for a second just explain the compound annual growth rate in 3 stages. Growth rate, is it going up or down? Annual, every year, and compound, which of course is amount invested, interest added, and then the 2 combined and reinvested. Interest earned on that, combined, reinvested. Compound annual, every year, growth rate. And the challenge is, you see, we need to work out, well, what is the compound annual growth rate? We need to rearrange the formula so we can do the activity, so we then know what the compound annual growth rate is. And it's fairly simple. We arrange it like this. We take the end capital, if I'd say end cap, we divide it by the starting capital, and we do that first. And because it's annual, it's only 1 year. So it's 1 of the 5 years, 1 of the 3 years, 1 of the 2 years. It's to the power of 1 of the number of years. And then finally, we have to subtract 1 because we had 1 added. Take the original amount that we invested out of the equation. Just so we know what the interest rate would have been from our starting capital. What is the interest rate added to what we get at the end? So we take the end capital divided by the starting capital, and once we've got that, we're going to do it to the power of 1 of the number of years the investment was held for. And I've done that for us here. So I've taken, in the 1.3 is the end capital divided by the start capital for person A, and done it to the power of 0.2, 1 of the 5 years. Here, it's end capital is £25,000, dividing by the £20,000 gives us 1.25, multiplied to the power of one of the 3 years, and so on. And then if you do want to calculate this, you're going to need something like a scientific calculator. Most Apple phones may not have that functionality, but this is what you can do. Now you can work out the compound annual growth rate. So for person A, for their investment, we have a 5.38% return on investment. For person B, we have a 7.64, and a person C, we have a 4.88. And of course, we can then say, well, actually, if we had £20,000 and we made £25,000 after 3 years, 6.4% compound annual growth rate outperforms the other two investments. And this arguably is the way we should be measuring our success. What did we start with? What do we end up with over a certain period of time? This would be the interest rate a bank would be giving to us on our money if we're going to look for instance, at a savings account. So, question for you then. If you've got investments, what are your compound annual growth rates? And as I said at the beginning, please feel free to drop those if you're feeling brave or willing in the comments below. If you found this helpful, please leave a like. If you know anyone who'd like to know about this or our channel, then please feel free to share it. That's it for this one. My name is Josh Harrison. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate your support. Look forward to seeing you in the next one.